Good evening, and welcome to the February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education. The board will be conducting its regular meeting remotely due to COVID-19. In accordance with the state's Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on February 4th, 2021 to the Hillsborough Beacon and to the Courier News. Mr. Mahmood, may we please have a roll call?
Surely. Mr. Kidd?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mr. Marini?
Here.
Mrs. Maroon?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mrs. Nurse?
Here.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Here.
Mrs. Stats?
Here.
And Ms. Trujillo?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. May we please rise now for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the correspondence that was received as listed. And there was a comment on the budget that from Ms. Gilbert that on January 25th that I believe missed the board comment period, that the topic was about prioritizing educational equity in the next year's budget. And then we'll turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Trujillo. Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to congratulate 6 of our seniors who are named as candidates for the U.S. Presidential Scholar Program. Youssef Abdelhalim, Nipan Banerjee, Cindy Dang, Emily Pan, Ryan Pearson, and Nihal Saxena. According to the U.S. Department of Education, the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program, established in 1964, recognizes and honors some of the nation's most distinguished graduating high school seniors. The scholars represent excellence in education and the promise of greatness in young people. The majority of the scholars are selected based on broad academic achievement. Additional scholars are selected on the basis of artistic scholarship in the visual arts, performing arts, or creative writing, and outstanding scholarship and accomplishment in career and technical education fields. After completing a rigorous application process, up to 161 students will be named as presidential scholars, one of the nation's highest honors for high school students. Semifinalists will be named in mid-April, and the names of the 2021 U.S. presidential scholars will be named in May 2021. Congratulations on this incredible achievement. I would like to take a moment to thank the students who emailed me regarding how decisions are made to have all virtual days instead of using our unused emergency days. These decisions are not made quickly or easily, and many factors are considered. Until we had an all virtual option and built-in snow days were used, we often had to take days from winter holidays or spring break. For many years, preserving the spring break days has been a priority. This year is no different, and having all virtual days has been helpful. Also, please remember that should we have unused emergency days, the district will be closed for those days in late May and early June. So how do we make the decisions related to snow days? Well, as I shared, it's truly not an easy decision to make. The fact that we actually have the opportunity to utilize a remote option does help, but it also adds to the complexity of the situation. Typically, Mr. Mahmood does much front side work with Mrs. Bennett, Mr. DeLuca, Mr. Grotto, and Mr. Spieley. Our conversations take place with the township as well. Nevertheless, we take a look at the data we have at the time. We weigh the factors, including temperature, wind, ice, the forecast, the timing of the weather event. We're often on a video call very late at night or very early in the morning. And when I mean early, I mean like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Additionally, just as Mrs. Bennett is in contact with other transportation supervisors and contractors, I'm in contact with other Somerset County superintendents. We always have safety as our priority and consider other issues. Some of these issues have to do with organizational structures and logistics, and others have to do with the domino effect closing schools will have overall. So while it may seem like the decision does not make sense, there are definitely reasons for the decisions we make. We do try our best to make the decision as soon as possible and let the community know earlier rather than later. Sometimes this is not a problem, and other times it's more challenging to do so. Which brings us to the fact that after a brief reprieve from wintry weather today, it seems that there's a prediction for additional snow accumulation this week. The first of these opportunities will come late tonight into tomorrow, with the bulk of the snow likely to occur in the morning, which may affect the morning commute. At this time, we don't see any change to our schedule, and we're going with a regular day as far as we know at this time at 7:36 tonight. The second event may begin as early as Wednesday night, with the chance of wintry precipitation potentially lingering into Friday. Uncertainty over the specifics, such as amounts, precipitation types, and timing, are high. We just don't know where we are with it yet. But the event does have the potential to have more widespread impact than what may occur tomorrow. We're just not sure yet. So Mr. Mahmood and I will be looking at that, and we'll keep the community as up to date as possible. Although I do want to remind everybody that this Friday, February 12th, is an in-service day for our staff. So students are not expected to be in on Friday. And of course, February 15th on Monday is President's Day. So everybody enjoys a long weekend. I'd like to respond, Ms. Trujillo, to some of the community connections questions that came into the board. And while I don't have all of the responses, we did work on some of them. And so I'd like to respond to those that we can. If we don't have responses tonight, that doesn't mean we will not. We just don't have them at the moment. And we may even expand on some. But I didn't want the time to go by without responding to some of them. So there was a question about when will potential plans for September 2021, no matter what they might be, begin to be discussed or shared with the public? At what point will a definitive decision for September 2021 be made, even an estimated date? So really, while we can say nothing definitive, because we're awaiting guidance, so we can't really say anything definitive. However, what we can say is that the district is moving forward with planning for a full opening in September 2021 for the 21-22 school year. Much of the decision surrounding the reopening of schools is out of our hands, and we await guidance from the Department of Ed and the governor's office. Question 2, why are the elementary school playgrounds still fenced off? I understand that students are not utilizing them during school hours, but is there a legal reason that parents are not able to use them on weekends with appropriate COVID precautions? While we are permitted to open our school playgrounds, we made an intentional decision to keep them closed. We are not able at this time to properly clean them, ensuring everyone's safety. And we don't want to be the cause of anybody falling ill due to COVID, due to something that we can control a little bit. Question 3 for the Board of Ed. Have you provided all documentation, et cetera, to the HEA that you're legally required to? So the Board of Ed is really under no legal obligation to provide the HEA with any information different from than what would be provided to the public via question and answer or open public record request or a conversation with administration where appropriate. All Oprah requests, to our knowledge, have been fulfilled with the information we had at the time of the request. If something was requested, wasn't provided, it's because we didn't have documentation to provide for those requests at this time. Through the course of the reopening of schools, to hybrid, have all guidelines provided from the state and other, quote, experts surrounding the pandemic been followed? It is my understanding that the state had to approve opening of individual school districts. Was that approval received, or were the schools opened without it? So we had to submit our roadback and recovery plan. We had to do it by a date certain. We did submit that plan as requested by the state on August 24th. And the executive county superintendent did approve that plan. All of the plans were approved for compliance purposes and less about each individual item in the plan, because every school district is so different. Question 5, is there a plan or committee in place to move to a more full, quote, full schedule, even if it is not 5 full days? If so, is that plan being put in place within the guidelines set forth by the state and their experts, as well as experts on the local level? You know, I just want to say, in all of these questions, I should have said this in the beginning, we could have a 2-hour conversation about every single one of these questions, honestly, because we're giving you a very brief overview so that we were able to respond a little bit, but we could really, these answers can go on and on. So let me talk to you about the plan or committee to move to a more full schedule. The board recently formed an ad hoc committee made up of board members and administrators at this point to seek ways to bring students back to school safely. While each grade span presents its own challenges, our goal is to welcome students back to school as soon as possible. And many of you know that we've been working on trying to bring back our most at-risk populations first and then stepping it up in a step up and phase in plan. And we are continuing to work on that. Question 6 for the Board of Ed, but would like also to hear the union's take. I'm just reading exactly what was provided to us. Okay, we don't have a question. We don't have an answer to that question. So let me move on to the next one. Is there an opportunity for kindergarten students to move to 2 hybrid mornings? It's the same question. It's the same answer that we just talked about for question 5. We continue and are actively seeking opportunities to increase time in school for all students, including our kindergarten students. The ad hoc committee was recently formed to review ways to bring students safely back to school. And again, especially kindergarten presents its own challenges, but we want students back in school. I know teachers want to be back and teachers want kids back in school, and we want to do that safely. We do know that there are school districts that are bringing some kids back, and they're doing so by relaxing the 6-foot rule. That is not something that we, Mr. Mahmood and I, or members of the board feel very comfortable with. And so we're sticking to the plan as outlined by the CDC at this point. And the final question for tonight, funding from the federal government is most likely on its way with the proposed COVID relief bill. Is the Board of Ed proactively planning the use of potential funds, as I am sure plans for usage of funds will need to be laid out in detail and approved? I feel the biggest issue facing the district is space. Will plans include increasing the square footage of each classroom, i.e., take out walls when able to make 2 classrooms one, and then expand the buildings? The goal being larger classrooms, not more classrooms, so we don't need more teachers. Since we needed more space before the pandemic, it seems like a good investment regardless. I think second to the space issue is ventilation. Would funds to evaluate the HVA systems and upgrade as needed be critical? So our response to that question, and we don't know who asked these questions. This came in through the community connections, and then it was sent to the board via the HEA. So we don't know who asked these questions. So our answer to that question is the district will be prepared to provide a plan for the usage of COVID relief funds. As the district has done in the past with our coronavirus relief funds and CARES grant funds, we will ensure that all funds are utilized for an approved expense. Depending upon the amount of the funds received, the district will determine the appropriate usage of those funds in order to ensure a safe learning environment for all students and staff. Increasing the square footage of our classrooms would likely require a large investment, like assume in the millions, that will not be provided by COVID relief funds as compared to other funding that we have received to date. The current HVAC ventilation is safe for students and staff. So Mrs. Trujillo, those are the questions that we received. And I think out of all of them, there's just one we haven't responded to quite yet.
Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Thank you.
And then finally, I'm pleased to share that tonight we will be recognizing our teachers and educational services professionals of the year with a brief slideshow presentation. This is a little different for us. We like to welcome them in person and we like to celebrate, but this is a nice, I think everybody's going to enjoy this. On behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations to each of you on this very well-deserved achievement. And let me start the recognition.
It is my honor to name Lauren Peterson as Amsterdam School Educator of the Year. Since day one, Lauren has demonstrated qualities and impressive skill set that clearly identify her as an educator of distinction. As the teacher of the Learning Language Disabilities Mild class, she exhibits boundless energy, determination, and creativity every day, working with students who present with a wide range of unique needs, strengths, and challenges. Lauren teaches from the heart, with a smile firmly in place. She has shown remarkable patience and determination to meet the needs of her students. She is a strong collaborator and has worked closely with her colleagues to develop and implement specialized programs with a unique twist. Thinking outside of the box, she makes learning meaningful, engaging, and fun. Additionally, she supports our school endlessly with creative activities, her school spirit, and gifts of time, which enhance the quality of school life for all of our stakeholders. Lauren Peterson is a highly regarded, respected, and talented teacher who is the ultimate professional. She is the model for others to follow. Congratulations. It is my honor to name Melissa Rice as Amsterdam School's Educational Specialist of the Year. Melissa is not only an extraordinary instructional assistant, she is an extraordinary person. She has this unique quality to build a special rapport with each student and make them feel special. Her warm and bubbly personality is one of a kind, and this makes her approachable to everyone. Students feel safe and comfortable in her care. Melissa is an I can help kind of person. She has school spirit and is a proud member of Amsterdam School. She assists in creating all props and displays for the monthly character education assemblies and participates in school spirit days. Her giving nature does not end at the schoolhouse door. Melissa is involved in a number of district and community activities. She assists with her children's field days, community life group, and is very active in her church. Melissa's greatest quality is that she has a heart of gold. She cares about everyone and is always rooting for others. She is genuine and has impacted our Amsterdam school community in only positive ways. I can think of no one more worthy of this recognition. Congratulations, Melissa.
Good evening. On behalf of Alton Road Intermediate School, I am honored to introduce our Teacher of the Year, Miss Tricia Townsend. Tricia has a bachelor's degree in childhood education with a minor in mathematics, as well as a master's degree in adolescent education and mathematics, each from the College of Staten Island in New York. Tricia began her teaching career in Brooklyn, New York, where she worked for 4.5 years in the Brooklyn Dreams Charter School and Community Partnership Charter School, where she taught grades 5 through 8 mathematics, science, and special education. Tricia joined Alton Road in 2018 and has served the last 3 years as a special education math teacher, working in both co-teaching and replacement settings. Tricia has quickly earned a reputation as a quiet force in the building and a teacher who conducts her work with grace and skill. She's extremely knowledgeable in her approach to meeting her needs of her students through scaffolding, modeling, and interpersonal connections, as well as by working collaboratively with colleagues to provide targeted instruction and assessments. While maintaining the highest level of support, Tricia is able to challenge her students to make sure they do their best and to reach their potential, even when they don't always believe in themselves. A quote from a student says, "Miss Townsend is very helpful, supportive, and patient. She takes her job seriously and is a great spirit to have in the class." For these reasons, Alton Road is proud to recognize Miss Tricia Townsend as its 2021 Teacher of the Year. On behalf of Alton Road Intermediate School, I am honored to introduce our Educational Services Professional of the Year, Miss Linda Goroyan. Linda has a bachelor's degree in economics and anthropology from Stony Brook University in New York. Prior to working in Hillsborough Public Schools, Linda was a vice president at Merrill Lynch in their commodity and trading office. She is a resident of Hillsborough for 29 years and has worked as an instructional assistant for the last 22, serving students at Alton Road Intermediate School, Amsterdam Elementary School, and Hillsborough High School. Throughout her career, Linda has always been quick to go the extra mile to support her students, ensuring that they are successful in all aspects of their school life. She works hard to connect with each of her students through their individual interests, even going as far as researching quantum physics when one student displayed such an interest. Linda's essential role as an instructional assistant serves to remind each of us the important role that all paraprofessionals play each and every day. Linda certainly exemplifies the dedication as well as the professionalism to maintain the quality of our schools. A quote from an Aughton Road colleague says, "In the most unique of years, Miss Goroyan has risen to the challenge of continually meeting the needs of all students in our classroom. She is a dedicated educator who expects a lot from her students, while being ever mindful of the social-emotional needs that are critical, especially in today's learning environment. Her constant smile and gentle way are a source of daily calmness, reassurance, and positivity for everyone she comes into contact with. And for these reasons, Aughton Road is proud to recognize Miss Linda Goroyan as its 2021 Educational Services Professional of the Year."
Good evening. I am honored to name Mrs. Joyce Bordenaro as the Teacher of the Year for Hillsborough Elementary School. Earning this distinction is something that most teachers aspire to do just once, but this phenomenal educator has been selected as the Teacher of the Year before, which gives you some insight into just how special she is. Some teachers are born educators with the ability to make magic in all they do, and that is certainly the case with Mrs. Bordenaro. Her energy, dedication, and heart make her second to none. A consummate professional and master teacher in normal times, she has managed to be even more spectacular in the uniquely challenging circumstances facing us in the pandemic. Joyce makes her students feel like $1 million as she celebrates them as unique individuals just as much as she recognizes their academic growth. Making each student feel loved and valued, her students' faces light up in her presence, leaving no room for doubt that Mrs. Bordenaro has earned this very special accolade once again. Congratulations, Mrs. Bordenaro. I am honored to name Mr. Taylor Lizicki as the Hillsborough Elementary School Educational Services Professional of the Year. Mr. Lizicki is one of the brightest spots of the day for the students with whom he works, and he approaches every moment with a student as an opportunity to make that child's day better. He is kind, sincere, approachable, warm, and dedicated, and his students know that they have a trustworthy adult ready and eager to help whenever they are with him. An outstanding role model, Mr. Lizicki will do whatever it takes to motivate his students and make them excited about doing their best work and being the best people they can be. Mr. Lizicki is truly someone special at Hillsborough Elementary School. Congratulations, Mr. Taylor Lizicki.
Mrs. Mound is the crux of the art department at Hillsborough High School. She is a role model and mentor for new teachers, a trusted resource and colleague for veteran teachers, and a highly respected and beloved teacher for her students. She helps students find their inner artist by teaching them a skill set that builds a technical foundation from which they can unleash their creativity. Her students' artwork is technical, expressive, innovative, creative, and reflective of her students' inner vision. Whether working with a novice or AP art level student, Mrs. Mound teaches with her heart, always displays the highest degree of professionalism, and shares the breadth and depth of her knowledge, making her art classes the highlight of her students' day. I am thrilled and so proud to call Mrs. Lynn Mound the Hillsborough High School Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Ampanen began this year as the last nurse standing at Hillsborough High School in a health office typically staffed by 3 nurses, when one coworker resigned and another needed to be transferred to cover 2 vacancies in our elementary schools. The school nurse is always a critical member of the school staff, but never more than during this unprecedented pandemic. She is the voice at the other end of the phone for parents, students, and staff facing infection or exposure to COVID-19, calmly explaining the district protocol, answering health questions, and reassuring everyone that she would be there to help them through this frightening time. As the high school point person for contact tracing, she has exhaustively followed the breadcrumbs to ensure that anyone possibly placed at risk is informed and able to protect themselves and those they love with proactive measures. Aside from the pandemic, she is a critical member of several committees about health, safety, and class credit, and she is ready, willing, and able to provide assistance no matter the situation. I am truly honored to call Mrs. Jennifer Amponin the Educational Services Professional of the Year for Hillsborough High School.
Good evening. On behalf of Hillsborough Middle School, I am pleased to introduce Mrs. Kimberly Lopez, who has been a powerhouse of support for students with disabilities for nearly 30 years. Her energy and expertise in the classroom and commitment to doing whatever it takes for her kids is boundless. Kim Lopez was among the first group of teachers to pilot new technologies in the classroom and has led the way in adapting those resources to advanced learning and special education. She's been a turnkey trainer and a mentor teacher to countless new faculty and staff. In recent years, she started a personal audiobook YouTube channel in which she has been recording her own read-alouds of educational texts and literature, not only to benefit her own students, but as a resource for students and teachers across the school and even beyond Hillsborough. Kim Lopez has always been active in our special school-wide events and activities for all kids, and a valued member of the Principal's Advisory Committee for years. As a gifted teacher, instructional leader, and an advocate for all children, HMS is proud to recognize Kim Lopez as our Teacher of the Year for 2021. Good evening. I'm pleased to introduce Mrs. Tina Androlakis, one of our instructional assistants, who has been an invaluable support for students in our remedial literacy program that serves both 7th and 8th grade students who are most in need of a patient, guiding, and skilled hand, helping them to overcome learning challenges with reading and writing. Though her formal role is as an instructional assistant, one would be hard-pressed to distinguish her from that of a co-teacher in lesson planning, providing small group instruction, and as an individual counselor and role model for her students. Without question, the success of this program and all the youngsters in her care for the past 10 years, many of whom were learning English for the very first time, is attributable to her deep dedication and expertise. Beyond the classroom, Tina Androlakis is also a volunteer member of our AED response team and has been an active participant in charity events here at school and throughout our community. HMS is proud to recognize Mrs. Tina Androlakis as our Educational Services Professional of the Year for 2021.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure and pride that I introduce to you Sunnymead's 2021 Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Caitlin Sumner. Caitlin has been a member of our Sunnymead family for 8 years, and 8 has certainly been enough for us to determine that Caitlin has what it takes, not just to be a teacher, but a master teacher, a phenomenal teacher. Caitlin is creative, innovative, energetic, and enthusiastic. Every day, she greets her students with a smile and with the energy that keeps them energized. Caitlin works extremely hard to build relationships with her students opportunity to introduce Sunny Meets 2021 ESY, Elizabeth Alio, affectionately known as Liz. Liz has been a teacher assistant in district for 12 years, and the last 3 years have been spent at Sunny Meet. In a very short period of time, Liz has forged very positive and meaningful relationships with her students, the parents, and the staff. Liz is multi-talented, and she's always willing to share her time and her talent. Liz goes above and beyond in so many ways. You will often find her helping out in the office. She'll help out in classrooms that she's not even assigned to. She's just a helper and willing to support wherever there's a need. That's something that makes her extremely unique. We are so fortunate to have her as a part of our Sunny Meet family. One of Liz's favorite quotes is, "It's not about being the best, it's about being better than you were yesterday." Well, Liz, you are the best, and you get better and better every day. We applaud you, we appreciate you. Congratulations.
Good evening, and congratulations to everyone being recognized tonight. It is with great pleasure that I name Mrs. Kathy DiGirolamo as Triangle School's 2020-2021 Governor's Educator of the Year. Kathy's hard work and dedication to the students, staff, and families of Triangle School are immeasurable. Over the past 17 years of service to all the students she has taught, Kathy remains a favorite among them all, not only for her teaching and love of education, but also for her ability to connect with her students and their families in a way that demonstrates caring, compassion, and empathy for the unique individuals they are. Kathy is a master teacher and serves as a role model to her colleagues here at Triangle School. Her willingness to think outside the box and learn new ways of making learning fun and engaging are outstanding, and she is often commended by her colleagues as she openly shares with others what she has discovered. On behalf of the Triangle School community, I congratulate Mrs. Kathy DiGirolamo on receiving the recognition of being named one of the very best in education. I am honored to name Mrs. Noreen Koval as Triangle School's 2020-2021 Educational Services Professional of the Year. Noreen is a truly gifted speech and language therapist. The ability she possesses to recognize the strengths in her students is a fascinating thing to watch. The children she works with on a daily basis are always greeted with a big smile and a friendly demeanor from Noreen, and the therapy sessions are filled with the successes her students make because she makes them comfortable to take those risks. And when students don't always succeed, Noreen is constantly reassuring them to try their best and to not give up. This motivation sparks an enthusiasm in her students and helps them to do amazing things. Noreen is also a fantastic support to the families of her students. She is always listening to their needs and offers suggestions and ways to support them. Those positive gestures are what make her such a valuable resource to the students and families she works with. Congratulations to Noreen on this fantastic achievement.
Mrs. Amy Regan is the embodiment of the teacher we all want our children to have and the teacher we all strive to be. The level of dedication she shows her students is evident in all that she does. Mrs. Regan is a teacher who consistently challenges her students to learn and grow beyond what they think is possible, and she does this while simultaneously showing the highest level of love and care for each child in her class. She constantly pushes herself to try new things and expand her skills, knowing that the ultimate beneficiaries are her students. I'm very proud to say that Mrs. Amy Regan is Woodfern's Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Shirley Mostowski can truly do it all. The breadth and depth of her knowledge and skill when it comes to technology, computers, and instruction is unmatched. She works incredibly well with students and staff. She has tireless energy to provide help and support, and she exhibits a supremely high level of patience and understanding in all that she does. She has an innate ability to anticipate potential glitches and problems, and she often fixes these before they even occur. Mrs. Mostowski is the epitome of a highly skilled and motivated professional. It is my honor to call her Woodfern's Educational Services Professional of the Year.
It is a great honor to award the 2020-2021 Woods Road Elementary Schools Governor Educator of the Year Award to Mr. Peter Mclaughlin. Peter has been in education for 6 years, and during that time he has served as a third grade teacher. Peter is a dynamic educator who has the ability to connect with his students and truly understands both their academic and social needs in order to create an electric, fun, and engaging learning environment for all. Peter individualizes his instruction and always makes himself available to both his students and their families, and is well respected among his Woods Road colleagues. Mr. M, as he is fondly known through the halls of Woods Road, is very humble and often credits his success to his colleagues rather than to himself. Mr. McLaughlin's positive impact on his students and their families is clearly evident by the lasting impact he has had on his students long after they leave his classroom. On behalf of everyone in the Woods Road School and community, congratulations to Mr. McLaughlin on being awarded this year's Educator of the Year, a distinction well deserved. Congratulations to Corinne Magliaro for being named Woods Road Educators Services Professional of the Year for 2020-2021. Corinne is an amazing asset to the Woods Road preschool community, as she is a champion for her students by continually going above and beyond the parameters of her role as an instructional assistant. For 12 years, Corinne has helped to develop new behavior plans, assist with students' daily therapy schedules, and can often anticipate the needs of her students, thus ensuring a safe and engaging learning experience for all. Corinne collaborates with therapists, behavior specialists, child study team members in order to best meet the needs of her students. I cannot think of anyone else who better exemplifies the work that goes into assisting our youngest learners at Woods Road. Corinne is truly deserving of Woods Road's Educational Services Professional of the Year, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Antunes. That was a lovely presentation and very creative way of honoring our teachers and educational service providers of the year while we are virtual. I'd like next to move along to the committee reports, and I would like to ask Mrs. Stotts if you would give the update on the Municipal Alliance and the Educational Services Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. The Municipal Alliance, just to remind everyone, that addresses mental health issues, especially those related to substance use and abuse. There are two recent programs that were very successful. They were virtual programs. One was the Upstanders and the other was Minding Your Mind. So we appreciate the turnout for that. And let's see, on Wednesday, February 17th, that would be next week at 6:30 p.m., there will be a virtual presentation called Hope for Tomorrow. It's a virtual mental health fair. So we invite people to that. Now, these programs, we've lost some funding from the state and other sources. So we're going to have a fundraiser, and we just want to give people a heads up. It's called We're All in This Together. It's going to be a virtual talent show fundraiser. It will be the evenings of April 23rd and 24th. And it's anyone who has any kind of talent, and I mean anyone, any age, and any kind of talent, could be singing, dancing, juggling, stupid human tricks, whatever, anything, no matter how unique, that would be wonderful. And you'll be asked to submit a video, and there will be details that will be forthcoming. So save the dates of April 23rd and 24th for the actual We're All in This Together talent show. Now, regarding the Somerset County Educational Services Commission, we met last week, and We were presented with a budget. 52% of the budget goes towards transportation. And just to make people aware, the Educational Services Commission provides shared services to all the districts, for the county. And they run programs on their own property, as well as they can help district schools run programs at their schools. And I'm preceding me, I'm the current representative, but the representative for 11 years for Hillsborough High School was Ms. Judy Haas. In fact, she was the vice president last year. And just looking through past minutes, she really has been a very significant force on the ESC, very appreciated. I believe she was presented with a plaque for her contributions. And I can recall with how passionate she was, such a supporter for the ESC and what it does. So hopefully she realizes how much she was appreciated. So thank you, Ms. Trujillo.
Thank you very much for that report. So now I'd like to just make a few comments, and please forgive me if I'm going to refer to some notes that are also on my computer, so I'm going to be going back between a few windows, because I want to address some of the outstanding issues from the January 25th meeting with respect to comments from the public. So those were, okay, so I think we did address, Dr. Trabolsky and Ms. Mailer had talked about Borough Cares, and I just wanted to let the public know that later this week, when we have committee meetings, that the Education Committee will be discussing the issues of equity, et cetera, that Dr. Trabolsky had brought up. Let's see, Mr. Hobson had talked about he wanted to know about graduation contingency plans for high school seniors, and we also received another email that was listed in the correspondence. So I'm going to try and kind of give what I know right now. And so we thank you for bringing these issues up, because it is on people's minds. It is being planned currently by the high school principal in conjunction with the high school senior class representatives. And I'm trying to think like what else that I can share at the moment, because the plans are kind of up in the air, right? Because of the governor's limits on outdoor activities, gatherings, indoor activities, gatherings. So there's nothing definitive to be said right now. Dr. Antunes, is there anything that you would like to add? I'm going to mute myself here.
No, Mrs. Trejo, I think that, as you indicated, Ms. Spingert has been meeting with senior class advisors, and they've been talking about some things, and we're moving forward with, like, we're going to have a typical graduation. However, we will always have a plan B and C as well. In fact, we're meeting about that shortly. So thank you.
Great. So then I will keep this on my running list of things to update the public on at the next meeting. So I believe that would be February 22nd. Let's see. Ms. Neal had asked about healthy school hours. I'm not sure that it's on this month's agenda, as it is this month's agenda for education. I think it's a quite packed agenda for education, but I'm not going to forget that. It's still on my list. Let's see. Okay. So Dr. Antunes had responded to the emails that we had received regarding the community connections. And I think that was a good first pass at it. I thought that was, answered quite a few questions, quite a few of the things that were asked of us. I believe that there were also some other questions that were not directed to us that I think I would like if as time permits, to address those also with respect to accommodations and so forth, that perhaps the board and the administration have a slightly different take on it. But the thing that I did want to bring to the public's attention is, so the board absolutely thanks the public and the HEA for bringing these questions to us. And when I review the questions as a whole, and it's like, what is the message that I feel, that the reason why these questions came to us, and I think what I hear is that there's like frustration on what the board is sharing with the public, and wanting to know more and wanting to have clear explanations. So what I wanted to say is that the board is committed to rebuilding that trust with the community, and we're trying to do that with consistent processes and dialogue. And we are working on these like a framework in which to move forward and engage the public more. It does take more time than I think many of us would like, but it is happening. So every meeting I will try and update with as much information as I can. And Dr. Antunes had given a summary of the ad hoc reopening committee. I think that was a really good overview, and I hope that that will at least give some insight to the public as to how things are moving forward. Okay, let me see my other notes. Great. Oh, and then also the other thing was we had received some emails through the Action Network, I think it was, entitled Collaboration Opens Doors. So one of the things on tonight's agenda is the board will consider a resolution to encourage the governor to move teaching staff, or I guess all staff related to schools, up higher in the priority list. So I hope that we will be able to review and pass that resolution tonight. And there were other things about on-site testing opportunities. That is not, I don't think I have a response for that. And timely communication. We are really trying. And okay, so I'm going to move on to, there was actually another question that I kind of think I saw just socially, which was about the daily cleaning protocol and the Wednesday deep clean. And I was going to ask Mr. Mahmood if you wouldn't mind just kind of updating just real briefly, because I know that we were going to maybe have a more in-depth conversation operations this week, but if you could kind of give a high-level overview. Thank you.
Mr. Hio. So the cleaning that we do currently and what we went through with the District Restart Committee, the protocols that we use during each night that we do clean, whether during the day or night, is enough that we feel is sufficient as far as what we determine for our cleaning protocols. So, even going into, if there is a day, for example, on Wednesday, we'll take that as a day that we can do additional cleaning. But the cleaning that we do on a Tuesday night is sufficient for, if the students were coming in Wednesday, that would be more than enough and more than ample if we needed to have our students and staff come in terms of our protocols. So we're going to go into further explanation during the Ops Committee meeting tomorrow. But I think that hopefully it answers a little bit of the speculation out there that each night that we clean with the assumption that we're going to have students and staff in the building and that everything would be appropriately cleaned and detailed with new protocols, electrostatic spraying. We clean the doorknobs. We clean everything as we determined during our restart committee is done each night, so that there's a little bit of you can breathe a little bit better knowing that we do that each night, and that Wednesdays, whether Tuesday night or Wednesday, Tuesday night we do the same cleaning we do every night. Wednesday we'll go into areas that we typically wouldn't have enough time to cover. But we'll talk about that more in ops.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmood. That was very helpful. Let's see. Oh, and then the other thing that I just wanted to update the board and the public on is, in discussion with Ms. Nurse and Ms. Nurse and Mr. Marini, I would like to make a slight adjustment to the liaison position in respect to the HSA liaison, that I will now appoint Mr. Marini to that position. And then finally, I wanted to invite the board to this Wednesday. Somerset County School Boards Association is having its virtual meeting at 6:30, so February 10th on Wednesday, and Vince DeLucia will be talking about mental health issues in students and staff. And so now I will move it along to approval of the executive session minutes from January 25th, 2021. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Stats. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Maroon. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Motion passes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kidd. I think Mr. Kidd was abstaining?
Yes, he did abstain. Yes, we
Okay,
recorded
great.
that.
Thank you. And now, may I have a motion to approve the public minutes of the January 25th, 2021 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions?
Motion passes.
Great. Now we will turn it back over to Dr. Antunes for the public hearing on the HES roof and paving project.
Mr. Mahmood, do you want to open that up?
Sure. We are, based on the public notice that we are going to have a public hearing to talk about the HES project. And we did invite our council, our bond council tonight to give an overview to the board and to the public. And then at that point, we'll allow anybody that has comments from the public and or the board to comment about the resolution or about the projects. After that, we will then go to a vote where we'll actually extract that item out of the ops section, vote on it, and we'll go from there. So Ms. Goreb, if you're on, you want to, and then we also have Greg Gillette, who's on, obviously, who helped us put together a lot of this. Hey, Greg, I see you nodding. So I think that so there are questions on that end. I'm sure Greg can help us answer as well.
Okay, would you like me to start?
Sure. Please.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, everyone. This evening's resolution is to be considered after the conduct of a public hearing, but I thought I would make some comments on the resolution to give some context. So this resolution authorizes the board to do a couple things. The first thing is to submit the DOE facilities application for the HES project, which is roof replacement, paving / site improvements. The total maximum cost of that project with all contingencies and soft costs is estimated at $2.2 million. In addition, the resolution authorizes the filing of a lease purchase application to NJDOE as well, because they would approve the lease purchasing of this project, which is what the board is proposing. It is a way to do a capital project to be financed over several years. It's called a lease purchase. It's similar to a loan. So the resolution authorizes the lease purchase concept. It also authorizes the board to seek proposals for the financing of the projects through a lease purchase, and that is essentially a bid for the interest rate. But before we get there, I'd like to talk about the provisions of the resolution as they relate to the lease purchase. Lease purchases can be done for up to 5 years. So this resolution gives the board the flexibility to finance this project up to 5 years. It can finance it for 3 years, 4 years, 4.5 years, 3.5 years. There's a great flexibility as long as it doesn't exceed 5 years. In addition, this resolution gives the board the flexibility to finance all or a portion of the project via a lease purchase. So for example, if the board had money that it would like to apply from its capital reserve towards these projects, it could have two sources of fundings for the $2.2 million, a portion lease purchase and a portion capital reserve. So it gives the board the flexibility, in addition to picking the term, also the amount. So it's not to exceed 2.2 million, but certainly the board can lease purchase less if it finds itself in a position that it has money in a capital reserve or other reserve account that it can apply towards the project. Lease purchase transactions are a little different than bonds in that the payment comes out of the general fund. So by adopting this resolution, the Board of Education is also saying that they're able to get this project done and the lease payments done without disrupting other programs in the budget. The lease will, as I said, be bid out. The interest rate will be bid out, and we will be waiting for DOE facilities approval and DOE lease approval before we can close the lease. Once we close the lease, the loan begins and the project can be undertaken, bid out, as other school projects are bid. So the purpose of tonight's public hearing is to really have a public hearing on the lease purchase concept, if there's any questions. And once adopted, this resolution is adopted, the board can go forward and plan the lease finance transaction for the improvements.
So I think President Trujillo, if you want to open the floor to the board and then the public, we can do that if you'd like.
Sure, thank you very much. I would actually open it up to Mr. Gillette first, if there are any comments as operations chair that you'd like to add.
I could say, can you hear me? Okay, I can say a few things about it if it's appropriate. First of all, thank you, Lisa Gorab, Ms. Gorab, for coming tonight again to our meeting. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your advice on this matter. It seems, in some ways, it seems small, $2.2 million compared to, the $20 million or $50 million or $100 million projects you're usually working on. So I thank you doubly for coming out for this, smaller type project, although it's not small to our taxpayers. And that's why I also appreciate you explaining the flexibility involved here. And we got some feedback at a previous operations committee meeting about how much we want to borrow for this and how we can carry that over 5 years. Because once you borrow the money, the payments cannot be made with any money that you've saved in your capital reserve account. Payments must be made out of your operating budget. That's principal and interest have to be made out of your operating budget. So we have a good amount of money in our capital reserve budget now, probably enough to pay for this entire thing, but that would deplete our capital reserve budget, and we don't want to do that. Yet on the other hand, we don't necessarily want to place a burden of $450,000 a year for each year from our operating budget. So as Mr. Mahmood develops the budget for next year at the end this month and next month, he will be able to tell us how much he feels that he can carry each of the next 5 years for principal and interest. I suspect it's going to be something under $400,000, in which case we can borrow somewhere significantly under $2 million, I believe, and take maybe, I'm just going to use some round numbers, like maybe $500,000 out of our current capital reserve budget now, and only borrow, let's say, in that case, $1.7 million for the projects. So this is the flexibility we have. I think it's a good plan. Ms. Gorab would tell you money is cheap right now. So that's fine, and we will get a good price. We'll have our financial advisor get the best deal that we can for this. That gets bid out also. So that explains the financing aspects of it. We didn't talk tonight about what we've talked about before about the need to do the projects, but we mentioned before that they rose right up to the top of anything that we didn't do during the referendum. This now is rising. It's probably more important now than some of the things we're doing in the referendum, but it wasn't at the time a couple of years ago, but now they are. So these are important emergent projects, and I appreciate Mr. Mahmood's work on identifying them and your team and our architect also. That's all about all I have on it, but I can answer questions also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. I'd like to open it up to other board members with any questions. Mr. Marini.
Hello, thank you for your time. Mr. Gillette, I guess the question is for you. Have we finalized the scope of work to be completed on this? The reason I asked, I know that there's an outstanding playground that was built. It's still not opened after almost, I think, 2 years at this point. Is the potential of including the paving work for that in scope of this project?
So I'll start to answer, but Mr. Mahmood could correct me if I'm wrong. It's we're not going to have anything to do with the playground project within this. It's not something that we would put to any kind of long-range facility plan in the first place. I don't think it's not that type of a project. But Mr. Mahmood, can you tell us the status on that playground? Because I have questions about it also.
Sure. We're going to talk a little bit more in ops. The playground, we can tell you that initially, Mr. Marini, clearly there was a divide there in terms of how it was put on site, who authorized it to be put on site, and was it run through this Board of Education. in terms of the proper permits and all that stuff. That hadn't happened. We've been struggling with getting the proper permits, and finally, I believe we have gotten the installer that is meeting with us literally this week to talk about correcting the mistakes initially that they made to getting this playground done. And with the holdup, Ms. Marini, was technically in the footings and the amount of what they built in for concrete. That sort of was. It's horrible to say that we waited this long, but that's kind of what has been the holdup. But we are happy to report that we are meeting with the installer. We did have to approach him legally, and our own Vic Lapierre was able to coordinate that. And I think the installer was anxious to talk to us about how we can rectify this, and that his name wouldn't be dragged through the mud here. So I do compliment the installer on reaching out to us, and I think that we're going to resolve this pretty quickly based on what I can see.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marini, do you have any follow-up? No? Okay. I'd like to open it up to other board members with any questions. And I'm not seeing any, so then, Mr. Pulsifer, thank you.
Yes, I guess to Greg or Mr. Mahmood, when we discussed, this is from my memory, I can't find my notes, but back when we were discussing the referendum, I think we specifically chose to leave out some Hillsborough Elementary School things because we weren't sure about the future of that school. And so this is the kind of thing that might have been considered then, but was put off because we were not, we're concerned about investing into a school that we didn't know what the future was. Is that an accurate memory into these things that might have been done then if we would been planning on keeping up this school?
No, I'm going to jump in, Iman, if you don't mind.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Chris, I think it's about half and half on that because somewhere down the line you need to do the parking lot and roof, but we couldn't see a couple of years ago that it would be at this level of deterioration. I might put that. So, in other words, if this was something, look, when we decided to leave the HES projects, most of them off of the referendum, is because we thought we were good for, I think we said, at least 5 years on everything. It turned out that that was not the case. We weren't good on 5 years on the roof. We were only good on a couple of years. That's what happens. But so you see where we are now. But yes, these probably would have been the next projects. And you're right, we did say, we downgraded these because we wanted to get through the next 5 years to see what was going to happen with that school, where we had other ambitious project plans still in the back of our heads before everything was different before COVID. Chris, this is a whole different world. But now these projects, these now became emergent. So that's about the answer for that.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I asked only because I'm sure people are wondering when we had this big referendum, why is it that we have a school that's in trouble already? Because part of it was it was a choice at the time, evaluating both the future and what we thought the lifespan of this stuff was. And it wasn't that we weren't paying attention to Hillsborough School, elementary school at the time.
Right.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Marini?
Thank you. Question based on the comments made just there. Does this have any impact with the timing of the other referendum projects that are being done? Is this going to allow this to move faster than if it was included in the original referendum, or is there no relation to those two?
There wouldn't be, Mr. Marini. I don't think there would be a relation. I mean, however, I just want to put on the record that our goal for any of the work, referendum, whether it's these projects or the referendum work, we've sort of asked our architect to move forward with, if we can get things done in the springtime, leading to the summer, but the end goal is that everything we committed to will be done prior to school opening in September. So there's a high level of commitment and expectation that not only would the second half of the referendum be completed, which is all that HVAC work and all that stuff, but also that these two projects would be completed as well. I think that's why we're coming to the board this early to see if we could, once we open up bids, we'll commit those contractors so we can get the work done in the spring, summer, or wherever we could.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from board members? Then if not, Mr. Mahmood, can we open it up to the public now just for this one topic? Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Just for this one topic. So if there are any attendees on Zoom who have questions on specifically the public hearing on the HES roof, please, if you would raise your hand and then we could elevate you to make your comment. And Mr. Mahmood, I'm not seeing any.
Neither am I, Mr. President Trujillo. I'm not seeing any as well.
Okay, so would you recommend that we go forward with the votes for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, if we can ask Dr. Antunes to introduce that item and then we can take a vote.
Sure, absolutely. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the operations agenda item 12.4 HES paving roofing project resolution.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mahmood, can we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mrs. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Mrs. Stats?
Yes.
And Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now, next is just comments from the board and the public on public input on the 2021-2022 budget. And are we doing this as two separate public, or can we combine? We can combine them. So if there's any input from the public on the budget and or the action agenda, now would be the time. And so I will just read the brief statement. We very much welcome input from the public. During board meetings, there will be 2 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be opened for public comment, where members of the public are invited to comment, which they may do so via Zoom or written comments. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about any item. Actually, I think that's not correct. But anyway, basically, during this first public comment of 30 minutes, you may comment on any topic on the budget, the agenda, etc. So may we have it? Oh, right, state their name and their address and for the record. And so I will actually just open it up first to board members if you have any comments on any topic. And I'm not seeing any, so I will now open it up to the public if there's any comments from the public, please. This is on, oh, there we go, Mr. Goodhue. So this is on any topic. If we could please elevate Mr. Goodhue to a panelist.
Henry, you should be good. Let's let us know if you, we just elevated you.
I'm not seeing Mr. Goodhue.
Yeah, I don't see him either. He was on the attendee list. I elevated him, and now he's not on at all on both sides.
There he is. He is back in the attendee list. Okay.
Okay.
So we try again. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll try it again.
Oh, there he is. Great.
Okay, Henry, you're ready to go.
Hello, Mr.
Good
Goodhue.
evening. Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association. I won't take it personally that you threw me out of the meeting when I asked to speak. No. I think that was on my side, for the record. I would like to first and foremost congratulate all of the teachers of the year and the educational service professionals of the year. They are absolutely an asset to the HEA, and we are proud to represent them. And we are absolutely in awe of the work that they do every day. So we would like to extend our congratulations to them. I would also like to thank the board and the administration for responding to the community connection questions that we had forwarded over. If you are open to sending us the written responses, we will post them so that all of them appear on one page and it becomes the resource that we hope that it will be for the community to create a shared foundation of information as we discuss plans for the district. I see that the board is posting a resolution tonight in terms of speaking to the importance of staff access, of all staff access to the vaccine. We appreciate you doing so. We encourage you, obviously, to continue to seek more ways to increase that beyond the resolution. Follow the lead of districts like New Brunswick or Freehold Regional High School that have gone as far as setting up appointments for high-risk staff members and helping them to receive the vaccination if they're open to doing so. So there's further steps we can take, but I do want to say thank you for taking this initial one tonight. I would also like to draw your attention to an open public letter that was recently sent from a number of advocates, educational advocates on the state level. If you haven't seen it already, I'll be sending a copy of it to the board. But those advocates included not only the NJA, but also the NJPSA, so the Principal Supervisors Association, the New Jersey PTA, the New Jersey School Boards Association, NJ ASBO, and the New Jersey Association of School Administrators, just to name a few. So quite a wide reach of advocates came together to publish an open letter to not only the governor, but to the entire state about where do we go and how do we get to where we need to go from there. And one of the key things that all of these advocates noted was a finding that, quote, systems of shared leadership that include the voices of students, parents, teachers, other staff, and admin are needed to guide us to where we need to go. So I heard some note of that tonight. I hope that we can take further steps to do that and to establish those shared systems that will include the voices of all who work within the schools or have a vested interest in the schools, and that we follow the lead of these educational advocates who come from both sides, both from the school board, the administration, and the union side. This is what we've sought, and I think that we can emulate what's taken place on the state level, and there's no reason that we shouldn't. Hillsborough is a district that has often prided itself in leading. And I think, unfortunately, we've started off in a rather difficult position with a very difficult task, but I don't know that we have to finish this year that way or plan for the next year in that way. So I sincerely look forward to possibly taking some steps forward and following those important suggestions that were outlined by the School Boards Association, as well as the administrators and the NJA. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goodhue. Mr. Mahmood, I'm looking at the attendee list. Were there any emails, correspondence that we received for public comment tonight?
Let's take a look. Ashley, did you see anything on there, the email side? Nothing, Mr. Hill. We didn't have anything.
Thank you very much. I am not seeing any more. Oh, I see Mr. Gordon. Mr. Gordon.
Okay.
If we could elevate Mr. Gordon.
Absolutely. He is elevated. Mr. Gordon, you are elevated at this point to panelist. You're welcome to.
Mrs. Gordon.
Sorry,
Hello,
it's
Ms.
actually
Gordon.
Mrs. Gordon.
Hello.
My husband was using my Chromebook. Sorry about that.
No issues.
No worries. Welcome, Ms. Gordon. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Dana Gordon, 4 Dumont Round, Hillsborough, New Jersey. Per my last board statement, I'm following up on cases. I've noticed that in the month of January, the cases reported on the district reporting tool have increased. How many students have selected to be hybrid in marking period 2, and how many do we have in marking period 3? Has the population increased, making the increase of cases due to a greater population within the schools? How many hybrid students are actually attending on their hybrid days? Has this increased recently? As for Hillsborough's numbers, when I last spoke at the last meeting, I was excited to tell you that the numbers had decreased, but I advised that we should take that information cautiously because I feared that there would be an increase, which there was, of 20% the following week. Last week, again, the cases decreased again. However, they may be being affected by that storm where people were staying home and less people were testing. Today, we had 26 new cases in town, which is a larger number than last Monday. And the governor also stated that there were some lab errors and made the state's reporting lower than what it actually should have been today. Our number, while hopefully will be waning with the introduction of vaccines, it's still not safe. It's still in the yellow range, and our Cali is still orange or high. While we may have the light at the end of the tunnel, we are currently at a very critical stage and need to remain vigilant. And I want to encourage everyone to wear masks and socially distance. And I was really happy to hear that we were not planning on relaxing that 6-foot distancing. I also wanted to thank you, the board, for your increased communication. I really appreciate that anytime I've written, I've received a response. And I love that you talk about the things that are being brought to your attention at the board meetings now. It really does make it feel like more people are being listened to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. And I'm looking at the attendee list, and I'm not seeing any.
I'm not either, Mr. Hill. I'm not seeing any more hands.
All right, I'll count. And all right, so then I guess we can close public comments. And if there are any other comments from the board, otherwise I will turn it over to the superintendent for the action agenda. Thank you, Dr. Antunes.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. Okay. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the one-item education agenda as follows. 10.1, motion to approve travel-related expenses.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Maroon. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pulsifer. Mr. Mahmood, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mrs. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Mrs. Stats?
Yes.
And Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the human resources agenda as follows. 11.1 to 11.11. Motion to approve retirements and resignations. And I'd like to just acknowledge Elizabeth Manning, who's retiring after 17 years in the district as an instructional assistant, and Edna Nugent, who's been a teacher of special education for 21 years. Motion to approve revised appointments. Motion to approve revised co-curricular advisors and revised leaves of absence. Motion to approve a leave replacement teacher and to approve leaves of absence. Motion to approve appointments and motion to approve extra coverage as listed. Motion to approve 6th period coverage, group changes, as well as the resolution of the COVID-19 vaccination priority definition.
Thank you, Dr. Antunes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nurse. Any discussion? I assume everybody had a chance to read over the resolution for the vaccine allotment that was on the agenda tonight. And so if there is no, Ms. Stats, please.
I would like to separate 11.1 from the rest, please.
Sure. I think, Mr. LaPera, we can, if that's the only one, is it okay if, well, actually, what do you recommend, Mr. Mahmood or Mr. LaPera?
So you're just removing one of the motion items from and voting on that separately?
Correct.
Yeah. So
right. Or are you able to take the roll and just separate, and then Mrs. Stats could choose, to say.
Yeah, you can do it that way also. In fact, that's probably the easiest way, just to say yes on everything, no on item, whatever it may be, or abstain, or whatever the case may be. That's easiest, I think.
Right,
unless you want to have separate discussion on just that one item.
Ms. Stats, would you like to have separate discussion on 11.1?
No, I myself don't have anything to mention as far as a discussion.
Okay. All right. So is there any discussion on the human resources agenda? If not, Mr. Mahmood, can we have a roll call, please?
Surely. Mr. Benjamin Kidd?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mrs. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Stats?
I abstain for 11.1 and yes for the rest of them.
Thank you. And Mrs. Trujillo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And so I thank the board for their approval of the resolution for the vaccine allotment, and I assume that this will then go to the folks listed at the bottom. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmood. Back to you, Dr. Antunes.
Thank you. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the operations agenda as follows: 12.1 to 12.3, keeping in mind that you have already approved 12.4. Motion to accept donations as listed. Motion to approve the out-of-district placement. And there's two out-of-district placements, 12.2 and 12.3, and then you've already approved the HES roofing project.
Thank you, Dr. Antunes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Marini. Mr. Mahmood, is there any discussion? If not, Mr. Mahmood, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mrs. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Mrs. Stats?
Yes.
And Mrs. Trujillo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Antunes and Mr. Mahmood. I'd like to now open it up to the board if there are any comments from the board on any topics. Oh, Mrs. Nurse.
I just wanted to mention something regarding Mrs. Gordon's comment. I know that Jean, you and I talked about the importance of making sure that the people are heard, and I'm glad to hear that Mrs. Gordon and hopefully others are finding that having these updates at the board meetings about the public's concerns and questions and addressing them at a board meetings are helpful. And I would really love to continue seeing that happen. I think that's very positive in building the communication amongst stakeholders. And I know that I had emailed both you and Dr. Antunes just trying to see when we were going to get our communications committee up and running. And I know that that would hopefully be scheduled soon. But again, I just wanted to bring it to the forefront because I think it is an important committee to start to continue to build our relationships and move our district along positively. So I would just like to hope that we get a meeting started as soon as possible for that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nurse, for your comments. I too share your sentiment of scheduling a communications committee soon. And also hopefully at the next board meeting that we can actually have a broader discussion about the board goals, one of which I think is communication, improving communication among all stakeholders and laying out the framework of what that would look like, including, I believe, communications committee would be at the forefront, including the HSA liaison, Mr. Marini, and hopefully engaging HSA presidents. So hopefully, I'm not sure that it was on, we'll have to double check what the committee agendas look like this week, and perhaps that we can, would really like to have that finalized by the end of this month in terms of goals, so that kind of gives everybody a roadmap as to where the district or the board is going in terms of that goal. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Gillette.
Thank you. So you mentioned, or Dr. Antunes mentioned a graduation tonight. I want to say something about graduation. It was, I think, last spring when I advocated for the board to take a greater role in the planning of graduation. I believe we have at least one policy in our book concerning high school graduation. And as I did last year, I'd like to propose that we amend the policy to require approval of the plans for graduation, the time, place, location, and the, you might say like the manner of, is it going to be a traditional graduation like we're used to, or what is it going to be? Board doesn't have to sit on any meetings, actually do any planning. Just the fact that the board would have to approve it is enough to get people thinking about what they think will pass for approval. The board is a policy-making body. I understand that. Doesn't run things. All right. But graduation is as I said last year, it's directly related to the board. The high school presents their students. The superintendent certifies that they've completed the requirements, and the board confers the degrees. This is our show, and I don't say it because I want to have a show, or I want to be part of a show. I've gone like twice in like 15 years. It's not about me or anything to do with that. It's about the public having a say in what happens at graduation through their elected representatives. That's what I'm getting at here. I don't like the way things went down last year, and a lot of the public didn't like the way they went down either. So, I mean, I think there has to be some board approval on what happens at graduation. If it requires amending of a policy to do it, I think that's something that I would advocate Mrs. Trujillo take up with whatever committee she finds appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. So I would ask you, what committee would you recommend as being appropriate?
Well, look, I'm on the governance committee, so I would say, I mean, I feel funny about saying that, so that's why I left it to you. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
So perhaps the education committee might be appropriate. We'll talk to Dr. Antunes about that, but I do support you in your comments. Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Trujillo. I just wanted to echo Mr. Gillette's sentiments about graduation. I know last year it was very difficult, and we're faced with a difficult task in this COVID world and percentage of attendance. But in essence, it is kind of a board show. We have to approve. We sign off on the diplomas. I think at least some oversight from the board, at least to pass through us to have some say in it. We're in the year of collaboration here, which I think is a real good step. So more collaboration, more board input, I think is essential. But just a couple of comments I have as an overall observation tonight. And I think everyone enjoyed a great game yesterday. Whether you're a Tom Brady fan or, Patrick Mahomes fan, just what he's done with his career is incredible. But there was an ad that hit home at the start of the game, and what they did for first responders and military and all the real essential workers, frontline workers, was incredible. It was a great show. It was a tribute. They followed diversity in the theme. We had the first female officiating a Super Bowl game. It was really good. But one of the ads that hit home at the start of it was, "Thank you for showing up and doing your job." And just think about that for a second. Thank you for showing up and doing your job. So whether it was the fireman, the police officer, the paramedic, the clerk in the grocery store who delivered that loaf of bread to you, the truck driver, whoever it was, during this crisis, pandemic, thank you for showing up and doing your job. And very disturbing to me that on January 25th, we went to a virtual board meeting to allow our custodians to go home in preparation for what was going to be an ICE event. And we wanted to make sure the schools were prepared to facilitate 500 plus students taking the PSATs. And at 6 a.m., the PSATs were canceled for a non-weather event. Okay? It was a non-weather event. I was out in it all day. I was in North Jersey. I was in West. I was all over the state. It was a non-weather event. It was canceled because we had a excess number of teachers who were going to be there to facilitate called in, and we didn't have staffing for it. And that hits home. Thank you for showing up and doing your job. And I want to discuss this at the HR meeting, and I want to fix this problem. We want to collaborate. We want collaboration. How do we fix it if we don't collaborate? And to me, collaboration is, there's two winners, right? Yesterday's game, we had a winner and we had a loser, and that's the tragic thing about a game. But in collaboration, we need winners. Everybody needs to come out of it as a winner. And I want to discuss it at the HR meeting, which we're having tomorrow. And I want to make a promise to those 500 plus families that were affected by it. We're going to try never to let that happen again. I don't know how we fix it, but we're going to put our heads together at the HR meeting and we're going to try to fix it, because it shouldn't happen. Those children deserve to take those PSATs. Those families paid for prep work, for counseling, for whatever, and we canceled it at 6 a.m. in the morning when we were more than prepared for it. So my promise is that we're going to look into that. I want to make comment to an article that the CDC came out on January 27th that said they don't see COVID being spread in the schools. As long as we're keeping our socially distant, we're wearing our masks, they're not seeing a lot of transmission of COVID in schools. And I'm excited to hear that we have a committee together and we're starting to think about that reopening plan and how we get children back into school 4 days a week, 5 days a week, full time. We're thinking about that. And I can't, urge that committee enough. We need to pick a date and we need to manage to that date, whether it's March 1st, March 15th, April 1st, February 25th. We need to pick a date and come up with a specific plan to say, how are we getting children back in the elementary schools, in the middle schools, and the high schools? We need to work towards a plan. And we're getting there. It's not an easy task, but none of this has been an easy task through this pandemic. And collaboration is the key. But again, collaboration is everybody being on the same page. Not everybody's going to get what they want. I'd like to see Mr. Mahmood do his juggling act. I don't know if everybody knows he's a juggler, right? Because he's juggled the budget for years, trying to balance it for us, and he's done a very good job. And this administration has done a phenomenal job. And I think this board has done a phenomenal job. But again, more stakeholders, more collaboration with the teachers, the union, the public, the parents. There's parents out there that want to keep their kids virtual, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we need to address the parents that need to get their kids back into school. I appreciate you letting me talk tonight. Gronk spike is all I have to say. It was a great game. Love to see Gronk. I called 2 TDs for him, so he had both.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver, for your comments. I do want to address one thing, though, with respect to the PSATs. I know we were all disappointed in having to cancel the PSATs, and I do believe that there was a staffing issue. But I think the reason there was a staffing issue is because of a cascade effect, as Dr. Antunes had stated before, with respect to when one district closes or a daycare closes or child care center closes, then a staff member's child care situation then has vanished. And so as that being perhaps part of the reason why we had a larger than expected call out on that day for the PSAT, and I know we were all disappointed in how that worked out. So Dr. Antunes, was there anything that was I covered? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Stats, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hio. I just wanted to, there are so many different areas within Hillsborough alone, much less lots of other areas from within New Jersey and outside of New Jersey that our staff travels from, so that that were negatively affected, and including today, as far as traveling. So, and they are showing up. Whether they're in the buildings or virtually, the teachers are showing up. In fact, it's very difficult to teach virtually. I haven't done it. Anything someone has experienced that I have not experienced, I take their word for it, that how difficult it is, especially when there's so many teachers that have to teach to blank screens. So it is a difficult task, and they definitely want to come in, but they want to do it safely. Safety, I think I've said this before. When I was a teacher, I was really big on, high standards, and education so important, but health, I'm sorry, that does take a priority. But I do agree that I'm glad to see that we are working more towards collaboration. I look forward to that actually happening, as Mr. Oliver said, among all stakeholders, and hopefully that'll be a win-win-win-win among all the stakeholders when that does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stotts. Ms. Nurse, please.
Yes. thank you, Ms. Stats. I appreciate that. And I wanted to just reiterate pretty much what you had said, that our staff does a phenomenal job of showing up and had pushed through very big challenges this year and last spring. And I agree full-heartedly with Mrs. Stats says about safety. We prioritize, hopefully we continue to prioritize health when it comes to COVID, but also in those conditions, driving conditions. We were not the only district that went virtual. There were many, many districts in the area that went virtual. And I would never expect staff where everybody else is virtual to have certain staff, because they were doing the PSATs, to drive in not good conditions. PSATs can be rescheduled, but the safety of our staff is of utmost importance. So I am glad for their safety that the decision that we made to keep everybody virtual and to postpone, cancel, whatever we needed to do to keep everybody safe was what I feel is a very good decision.
Thank you, Ms. Nurse. Are there any other public comments? Sorry, any other comments from the board? And then I will turn it over. None? Okay. I will turn it over to the public, and I see Mr. Goodhue. So if we could promote him to panelist. Thank you, Mr. Mahmood.
Definitely. This time I'll try to knock him out. I'll be nice.
And thank you, Mr. Goodhue, please.
Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association. I would like first and foremost to thank those board members who spoke truth to power about the situation regarding the PSATs. There has been a lot of conspiracy theories that have been peddled as to why they did or did not take place, some of which have been perpetuated, claiming along the lines of what was insinuated that our members didn't show up to work. The fact of the matter is that our members showed up to work. Some of them drove over an hour to get there on time, walked into the hallway, and were told to then go home. And not only did they go home, they rushed home to meet their class and then teach their class for that day. So our members not only showed up, they rushed home to make sure that they could be there for the students. And they're doing that every single day. I could not be more proud of the dedication of our people, of our team, whatever you want to call it. Our members are absolutely showing up every day for these kids, and any assertion to otherwise is categorically false. And I will not sit idly by if people want to perpetuate conspiracy theories as to what did or did not take place, if they involve our membership, when those people were standing in the hallways ready to proctor. Were there a number of people that called out? Yes, absolutely, for the reasons that were illuminated by the many board members who spoke. Also, we raised concerns about this and said we need to appropriately plan for it. When we were told that there was going to be a virtual day with the PSATs, and we said, we understand why you need to do that for the kids. We understood that. And we said you need to plan appropriately for that, not only for the reasons that were spoken to today, but also for the fact that close to 50% of our members are also Hillsborough residents and parents themselves. So there's a ripple effect through these decisions. But any assertion that our members did anything intentionally to scuttle the students' access to the PSATs or their academic success is absolutely false. And I will not stand for it. Our members show up every single day, and I could not be more proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodhue. Are there any other comments from the public?
I don't see any, Mr. Hugh.
All right, so then I will close public comments, and I will turn it back just one more time to the board if there are any follow-up comments. And
I actually had a comment regarding something that could be proposed on the communications board. One of the issues I've seen rise up now is how a lot of parents and students take proper avenues to investigate who they should contact regarding issues. I was wondering if it could be a matter of the communications committee to possibly go over records of past issues accepted by all departments and create almost a menu page, say on hps.us, that where people can check a category that their issue would be under and then go through a menu to figure out who specifically they can contact for an issue. So you don't have people, for example, contacting the board with an issue that isn't under our jurisdiction. And so there's not that level of disconnect or discontent.
thank you, Mr. Kidd. That's a great suggestion. And I've noted it down for the communications committee. Mr. Gillette.
Thank you. So I just wanted to double check maybe with Dr. Antunes. Is there no alternate date for PSAT possible? Is it finished?
So Mr. Gillette, we don't control the dates for PSATs. That's controlled by, much like AP exams and state assessments. They tell us when the test is. That's when we can give it. There is no alternate date, but Ms. Smedley is there are other avenues that our students can take. They just can't for those students who need it for National Merit Scholar and things like that. Unfortunately, we cannot just decide to give the test when we want to do it. But we do have our counselors.
My question is, can we petition the organization? I forget what's the name of that.
Right, it's College Boards, and it's.
They are giving it other times this spring, right, around New Jersey.
They are. I'd have to check the dates, but it is a national exam, so it's not something that's just New Jersey or it's the whole country. So we do have other opportunities for our students, but not all of our students for this year. But I know that Ms. Smedley and the counselors were all on top of that and providing the information to the students as necessary.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Antunes, and thank you, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Pulsifer.
I'm not an expert on this, but I am at the Educational Testing Services website, which is College Board's executive, and there are no other dates. According to their website, the last date was January 26th. So as far as delivering the test, it doesn't appear that there are any other dates. Again, to Dr. Antunes' point about NMSQT qualification and stuff, there may be other things, but general delivery of the test, it looks like there are no more dates for this 2020-2021 PSAT testing per their website.
Thank you, Mr. Pulsifer. Are there any other questions or comments? Ms. Stats.
Just regarding what Mr. Kidd was suggesting, I do believe at the last communications committee meeting in the fall, Dr. Antunes, you I think suggested like a chain of command kind of source of information.
So yes, and we actually have that ready to go. We are just refreshing the board portion of the website, and that's one of the things that we are putting on there. So we actually do have that ready to go.
Okay, so great minds think alike, Dr. Antunes and Mr. Kidd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stats. Are there any other comments from the board? Seeing none, then may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Do we need a second? I forget.
Look like Ms. Stats.
Ms. Stats, and then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Our next board meeting will be in 2 weeks, Monday, February 22nd. Hopefully in-person hybrid. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.